tonight's episode, like I was saying earlier, is about eclectic witchcraft. Roots and I both have some books that we're going to share throughout the live. I do have some electronic copies of different types of witchcraft, some that didn't really speak to me, that I really haven't finished reading, that I couldn't finish reading, which happens in your practice. But hello, everyone. I'm Lady Moonbear here on TikTok, and I've been changing my other social media platforms to reflect Lady Moonbear and the Witches Cauldron Live Podcast. This is a new podcast for all things pagan and witchy. And tonight's guest is Into the Roots from Rooted Moon Essentials. She has her own shop where she sells some very pretty shiny stuff. And in a moment, she will truly introduce herself for the Tuba Views video.
Tuba Views.
Yes, the Tuba Views. Trying to stay TikTok friendly here.
The tube for the tube.
Yeah, the YT. Let's go ahead and switch the view so that everyone can see your gorgeous face better and any books that we recommend. Look at this beautiful goddess right beside me, y'all. I have been a practicing witch for the last 10 years-ish, a little longer than 10 years. I am a tarot reader, oracle reader. I have a couple of rune decks that I've been using, a few rune sets, pendulums, a Lenormand deck that just collects dust because I am not good with Lenormand. It is not my cup of tea. I have over 30 decks, which are mostly on this bookshelf behind me.
Girl, you got me beat. I'm at like 9.
Yeah, I think the only one that probably comes close to that is the Mage of Bones, which I'm not sure if he's still in here, but he was my first guest. But
Mage, you still here?
Yeah. So I'm going to pass it over to Into the Roots and let her tell you about herself, her journey, and then we will get started with the actual podcast. So welcome.
Hi, I'm Roots, is what everyone calls me here on the Clock app. And following around my life now, it has started. People will see me, hey, Roots, and I'm like, hi, I don't know you.
That's awesome.
I have been a practicing witch for 19 years, off and on. I started when I was 13. I am now 31. Started as Wiccan. I did. I started as Wiccan, tiny little me. And it has morphed into me being the eclectic Norse witch that I am. I do divination in all forms of black mirrors. I've done pyromancy, tarot oracle. I have a couple pendulums. I even have a couple of coins. I really want to know how to throw bones. So if any of you know and can teach me, please.
The Mage of Bones.
Teach me.
The Mage of Bones.
I will be your Padawan. I promise. But I've worked with many a solitary as well as a couple different covens. So I've seen both sides of the spectrum. Starting Wiccan and moving through the phases that I did and the different paths that, my main road has taken has really been a lot. It's been a lot. I've worked with so many different deities and entities and spirits from so many different parts of the world. I've done a lot. So if anybody ever has questions, I am an open book. And if I don't know or can't find the answer for you, I will send you to someone that I know that does. Because if I don't know it, someone I know does.
So he works with bones, by the way.
Teach me, please.
So I grew up Mormon, and I kind of went over this in my first episode. I grew up Mormon, not the polygamous Mormon, but the mainstream LDS church. Yes, my young Anakin. I love him so much. And never really felt like I fit in. When I left Mormonism, um, I needed something that was a balance of masculine and feminine, because obviously in a Christian religion it's very patriarchal, it's very masculine, and I needed something that honored both the masculine and the feminine, not just the masculine or just the feminine. I was married to my second ex-husband at the time, and he was asking me, well, after we left the church, what exactly I would look for in spirituality or religion. And I told him, after dealing with being a Mormon for my entire life, with the exception of 8 years, I never wanted to go back to Christianity in any form. It just was not for me. And I told him what I was looking for, that I wanted a balance of the divine or the masculine and the feminine, not realizing the divine comes
The
with
divine.
that. Yes.
That
That's
comes
why I caught
later.
myself, because back then I didn't know that.
Yep.
But he introduced me to Raymond Buckland's Big Blue Book, or the
Uncle Bucky.
Uncle Bucky's Big Blue Book, the complete book of witchcraft. So that was the
Yes.
very first pagan book I ever read. And it is
That's a lot in the
very
beginning.
Wiccan. It is a lot. I didn't use it as a workbook like I was supposed to. But
Do any of
hey,
us
Gunner.
really?
Huh?
Do any of us really use it like a workbook?
I have a hard time writing in my books. There's no
I
way I was
hate
going to
it.
write
That's
in
why
my
I have so
book.
many notebooks.
Yeah,
Raise your hand if
yeah.
you have like 15 million notebooks that all have like one page written in them.
Well, I'm also in Muggle school, so that's part of why I have so many notebooks.
Muggle school. I love it.
Yeah, mundane school, Muggle school.
Muggle school.
So he found a Wiccan coven in the local area that we were living at the time. It was not a good experience. Just not a good experience. The high priestess was pretty much the complete 180 of Christianity. It was her way or the highway. She literally told my ex-husband, forget everything you know about witchcraft, about Wicca, whatever. And he'd been dabbling since he was 16 years old, and he was in his 40s at the time, or late 30s, early 40s at the time. Okay. Forget everything you know. Ended up being a very ugly separation from this Wicca coven that did not even get to level 1. It was still in the initiatory phase. So I decided I did not want nothing to do with any type of dogmatic path.
Yep.
And I focused on being a witch and learning by myself and growing a community on Discord of some very amazing people who have helped me spiritually grow in leaps and bounds and in ways that I just are very surprising.
Yep.
So I am also a High Council member of the National Black Hat Society, specifically the affiliate chair for the Georgia Black Hat Society. You can find us on nationalbhs.org. It is a United States-based organization that welcomes every type of path, whether it's crystal paganism, Wicca, Norse pagan, African paganism, hoodoo, voodoo. Like, we are not a path specific program, and we're trying to grow. So, little shameless plug. If there's not one in your state, apply to
If
it.
there's not one,
Application is free.
I think I need to start one because I don't think there is one in New Mexico.
I don't believe there is, but we can definitely help you start one if you want to chair one. So we will talk
I
about that
totally will.
off camera. Okay, cool. So yeah, so that was my path into witchcraft and paganism. It took me a long time to really open up to working with deity again. after being a Christian for so long in my life. And then Freya and Odin came calling and smacked me in the head and said, "Hey, hi, we're here. You're
Yeah, she's
mine."
good at that. She's good at that, aren't you? Yeah, yeah, you are.
She's a very
My
strong
altar for
presence.
her is literally right there.
Mine is that way.
She is right there.
Nice.
And then you've got Loki there and Hell there.
Very cool.
They're all
I've also
obnoxious.
had the Morgan reach out to me, and I did a lot
Oh,
of
she's a
research
fun
on the
one.
Morgan. Yes. I politely said no, thank you, which we can do as witches and pagans if we are not
Yeah.
comfortable working with a deity. Be polite about it and say no, thank you. Don't just be like F off.
No.
Please.
Or
For your
ignore
own
them.
good.
Whatever you do, do
Yes.
not ignore them.
Yeah, not good.
Be polite, be respectful. Thank you, but no thank you. I don't feel I'm in a place where I'm ready to work with you. I'm not in a place mentally to work on this problem or whatever this lesson is. Can you please come back at a later time?
And
Very simple.
Frey and Odin knew that. They knew I was not ready to be working with any type of deity until I had a dark night of the soul, and Freya, it literally felt like Freya wrapped her arm around my shoulder and said, "I got you. It's all good. I will take care of this for you." And I said, "Okay." And then this came into my life from the sea wolf, my
Yep.
amber necklace. And yeah, all kinds of things started happening in my life this last year once I accepted her into my work and my path. And so that's how I got started. And like I said, I've very heavily focused on witchcraft, learning more in Norse paganism. But I will never truly give up my Norse beliefs, let alone my witchcraft, regardless of
Mm-mm.
where I go. So I'm going to ask the first question, Miss Roots.
Okay.
What's to you is an eclectic witch?
For me, an eclectic witch is one that this may sound a little weird because they work with all, but they select none.
Mm-hmm.
An eclectic witch works with the universe as a whole. You work with multiple faces because if you look at mythos in any different culture, there are a lot of similarities between deities from one and deities from another. They are all interconnected. So working with one, you're just working with the aspect of that energy. And it has a face and it has a name and it has a physical form that you've attributed to it. Same with the elements. Some say, oh, well, there's only five. But then you get into alchemy and there's more. And then you get into spirits and there's more. The eclectic witch doesn't ignore any of it. She or he or they work with
Mm-hmm.
all of it. But it's not, I'm just this.
Yeah.
If you're saying you're a kitchen witch, you're a kitchen witch. You could say you're a green witch, you're a shadow witch, you're a lunar witch, you're a whatever your chosen title might be. Like me, I say I'm an eclectic Norse witch. My eclectic is still there. I still work with everyone. Any entity that comes to me, I am more than willing to do whatever work they need of me. But my base, my home, my center is with the Norse. Freya has been with me since 2017. Loki and Helic both came last year. I was alone with Freya for quite a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Before her, funnily enough, I was with the Morgan.
Figured.
I've worked with the Celts, the Romans, the Greeks, the Hindu, some indigenous from the North American side. I've worked with some of the more Oriental and Asian deities. I've worked with some South American, with some South African, with Egyptian. I've worked with them all. I've tasted all of their energies, and yes, they all
Mm-hmm.
are very, very different, but
Oh,
they all
yeah.
have a little touch of truth of the same. So if you're an eclectic, you don't ignore any of it. It's not, oh, well, that's not real. But this over here, this is real, but that's not real.
Yeah.
You have to be able to accept and be open to experiencing it all. The good
That's
and
also
bad.
one thing that I love about eclectic witchcraft. We're not stymied into or pigeonholed, however you want to word it. We can dabble here and there. I call myself an eclectic gray witch who's a Norse pagan.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
you have your home base, you have where your soul is centered, but then you still have those branches. You haven't walled yourself off from the rest of it and be like, it's only this. This is me, and that is all I'm ever going to see. You can't live like
exactly.
that. If
Well,
you've
you
been
really
through
limit
it and you're open
yourself.
to it, it's really hard to close it off.
Yes, yes, it is. And you really limit yourself in your practice. Now, if say Sather calls out to you and you dedicate your life to Sather, great. I hope you are happy. I hope it fulfills you. And I find nothing wrong with that. If you dedicate yourself to shamanism, to druidry, great. I have so many different friends from so many different paths, and we all get along. And that's the beauty of it. It's like Pops the druid. He's very, very Celtic druid.
Very much. Unabashedly so.
Yes. And I have some friends who are animists. And I kind of lean a little bit towards animism too, which I can still incorporate into my own path at being eclectic. And we can dedicate ourselves to specific deities still and work with other deities, as long as you're not kind of clashing the deities and they don't mind working with the other deity. You also have to be respectful of that too, because like Ruth said, they all have their own personalities and energies, and some of them can be very strong.
Some of them just do not get along.
No, they don't. Since we were talking about the Morrigan, and I even know in some in Hindu deities, specifically goddesses, since we're talking about hell, I'm sure you can see where I'm going to take this. What's your take on the dark goddesses? And the term dark goddess.
I love when they make it dark, like it's evil. It's bad. It's something that needs to be shunned and hidden away. No. So if you think about the dark as an entity into itself, yes, it is the absence of light. Darkness, black is the absence of light. And that's where people get this misconception that dark is bad. Black is bad. No.
It's evil.
The dark is cozy and protective and enclosing. So take that and transfer it to dark goddess or dark god. And all that is a more protective and nurturing energy for whatever it is that you're working with. So say you're working with, since we're on the topic and we've brought her up already, Hela. Hela is very, very nurturing, but she will protect you with everything she has. She does not care. She does not care who you are or what you've done. If you're coming after someone that she's protecting, she's going to protect it with her life. There is no gray area. There is no, well, maybe. No, it's either you're going to do this or you're not. You're going to stand up for yourself or you're not. You're going to protect what you love and what you care about or you're not.
That's the same with the Morrigan. She had a lesson for me. I have books up here that are probably leaning over because I took my witchcraft books down. But she had a very strong lesson for me before I said no thank you to working with her. And it was about sovereignty. She's very intense. I do have a Morrigan statue like right in here. It's a little one. But yeah, so that was the lesson, and it hit home and it hit hard. And I'm still working on it to this day, and that was a few years ago.
Yeah, sovereignty is a good
But
one.
what gets me the most about dark gods, dark goddesses, since we're talking about the Morgan and Hela, and we can
You can
bring
even bring
Loki and
like Loki into
Anubis.
the mix because
Yes,
Loki's seen as a dark god.
yes, and so is Anubis. Most of the
Yep.
gods and goddesses of the underworld are considered dark because it has to deal with death, but they're just very powerful. You know, Helheim or Hell gets a very bad rap because people think it's where the bad people go and it's where everybody goes, regardless of if you're especially bad. Yeah, uh, good luck.
You know, if you're
But
especially bad, you're gonna go to Muspelheim
yeah,
or Niflheim.
yeah.
Not Helheim.
So
This is
um,
not the Christian hell.
no,
It is
this is the
nothing
hell where
close.
you get to go sit at a table with Hela and your family and feast and drink and party. And I'm kind of okay with that.
I'm
I mean, I
totally chill
wouldn't,
with that.
yeah, I wouldn't mind going to Folkvanger with Freya, but because of her choosing of who of the dead, I doubt in war. I doubt I will go to Folkvanger. But I'm okay with being in the halls of my ancestors and in Helheim. I am perfectly
Exactly.
fine with that. Um, and to me, it's because there's such a strong entity, there's such a strong energy. It scares a lot of people because they're not prepared for. Um, yes, that so spiritual
That
country
is
says even
true.
the gods and goddesses that are considered good have bad tendencies to them. Look at
And
Odin.
I
Look
know
at
the
Thor.
perfect example, and he hates it every time I bring it up, and that is Zeus.
Oh
Mr.
yes, this was a
High on
whore.
Mighty himself. Oh yeah, no, me and him have a great relationship. Um, Mr. High on Mighty himself, Mr. Golden God, hey, you get off of my cloud, as Hades says.
Yeah,
Um, he is the biggest adulterer you will meet in any mythos.
he's a man whore. And I
100%. He's
say
a
that
terrible.
respectfully.
Respectfully, you're a man whore and you're a terrible
Yeah.
person. He really is. He is. So all these nice,
Yeah.
bright, shiny, deities, you really got to look everybody. Everybody has a duality to them.
Yes. Yes. And Hela of Helheim just happens to be nurturing as her other side. Now, also because she is half flesh and half skeleton, that is also why people fear her and consider her dark, narcissistic as well, respectfully. Yes.
My depiction of hell.
Oh, that's
We
beautiful.
have her dark side, her cold side, her I dare you side. And then we have her beautiful, glittery, comforting, rather shiny, and absolutely gorgeous, loving side.
Yeah.
It all depends on you on which side she's going to show you.
And that's the case with any deity. I mean, Odin has his fun side as well. It's not all just seeking knowledge for him.
No.
He can be narcissistic too in his tendency to try to overturn Ragnarok. Um, the Mage of Bones needs the skull, by the way.
I made it, so if you send me one, I can make it for you too.
She's very talented. So yeah, so we just have to look at the gods and goddesses for what they are, not just what we physically see or read about them.
And honestly,
Um,
I think that's what pulled me to the Norse more, is the way that we see our deities is they are like us. They
yeah,
have emotions. They
mm-hmm.
screw up. They
They're
make
not perfect.
mistakes.
They are
They
not
are not.
perfect.
They are not infallible.
No,
They are very real flesh and bone,
yeah,
just like us. They make mistakes just like us.
they do stupid shit sometimes, Loki, just like us.
Loki.
Respectfully, respectfully,
Respectfully.
we love you, Loki.
Um,
I don't need chaos in my life right now.
oh no, I'm
So
I'm surrounded by it. I could care less.
I work with a bunch of men, and that's all I'm going to say.
I work with a
In a
bunch of
maintenance shop.
kids.
Well, yeah.
Stay-at-home mom and 3 kids.
More
I
power to
thrive
you,
in
my
it.
darling.
I thrive in it.
Don't have kids, thankfully. So, since we also have talked about Raymond Buckland's Complete Book of Witchcraft, let's get into the book side of things.
Okay.
And some authors that we kind of recommend and can talk about. So I've seen a lot from Thorn Mooney. She is a Wiccan high priestess, and her books are very Wiccan. So the problem with witchcraft up until, I would say, the last few years, maybe less than 5 years, is a lot of the books that have been around are very Wicca based, because honestly, that's what really brought witchcraft back, is Wicca and Gerald Gardner.
Yes.
So nowadays you have people like Sky Alexander has a whole series of books specifically on witchcraft. They're not specific to just Wicca or heavily Wicca based.
I have
And I
those
do
on
have
my Kindle.
more. I have more of her books too. I think I have all of her books actually. And they're not that thick, so they're kind of easy reading. And she does break it down kind of easily. And there was one, Matt Oren. If you have not read The Psychic Witch, please make sure you read that. I have the Kindle version, otherwise I would show it to you. You dropped the phone.
I left my stack inside, so I'm going to go run and grab it real quick. I'll be right back.
So this is the book I was talking about. So you might want to get it for the Mrs. Bjorn. It's Sky Alexander. If you want to screenshot it and flip it. She has a whole series of books on witchcraft only, and different topics of witchcraft. So I recommend her. She's not Wicca. Let me pull up real quick some of the books I have on Amazon, on my Kindle, which I should have done already. Go away. Let's go back to 2020. Those are all my have 'em alls and Norse books. Let's see, 2021. Blood and Bones, of Blood and Bones, by Kate Freuler, and Matt Oren. Besom, Stang, and Sword, A Guide to Traditional Witchcraft. Now, these two books that I'm talking about, of Blood and Bones and Besom, Stang, and Sword, are traditional witchcraft. Okay, I want to be very clear. It's traditional witchcraft, so it's kind of, it's heavier, and do it my way, do it this way. This is how. It's not a closed practice, but it's borderline closed practice. They're personally not for me because I like it. We've been discussing, I'm an eclectic witch. Ruth is an eclectic witch. And when you have books, at least in my experience, when you have books that say you have to do it this way, it doesn't sit well with me, because I always do things the way that works for me, especially when it comes to magic and with practices, spells and things like that. I always do things in ways that work for me. So traditional witchcraft really is not for me, because it is very much borderline closed practice. So, of Blood and Bones and Besom, Stang, and Sword. Besom, Stang, and Sword is by Christopher Arapello. I think that's how you say it. The Crooked Path, an Introduction to Traditional Witchcraft by
This one?
Keldon. Yes. I have it on my Kindle.
Absolutely fantastic book. I love this book.
Okay, so
I love it.
I think that's all I have on my Kindle. As far as witch books. The Way of the Shaman, but that's really shamanism. My complete book of witchcraft is on my Kindle. Okay, yep, that's it. As far as that's concerned. If you want to learn Wiccan stuff, there's plenty of solitaire Wiccans out there, like Thorn Mooney, although she has high priestess over covens. She has had her own covens. She has a ton of books out that are available from beginner to intermediate. There's really not much advanced stuff out there, sadly. And I would kind of say someone who's at 10 years and over leans more towards the advanced side of witchcraft. I would suggest somebody at that point starts to really look in how they want their path to proceed, how they feel about their path, until the world is ready for more advanced stuff when it comes to witchcraft and solo practitioners. So, Miss Roots, what are some of the books that you recommend besides the one that we just both had?
So I grabbed some of my best beginner books. Couple different things. So of course we were talking about Raymond Buckland. So I grabbed. If someone ever talks about Uncle Bucky's Big Blue Book, this is what they're talking about.
That's why it's called the Big Blue Book.
It's the big blue book. It's a big book. But I have something a lot of people don't have, and that is Uncle Bucky's Big Red Book.
The spellcraft book.
His book of spirit communication.
Oh, spirit communication.
So if you're far enough along that you are looking into spirit communication, this is a great start. And it does both of these books, and I'll pull up a page so you can see it. It works like a workbook. So you have your passages and then your work. And the blue book does the same thing. You don't have to write in the book because, like me and her, I can't. I can't do it. I will keep a page. I will keep a single page in between every other page. I will not write in a book. But pretty much anything by Raymond Buckland, make sure that you take it with a grain of salt when it talks about specific roles, because he was very structured in the way that he wrote things. It was very male role, female role. So take what you will, leave the rest. That's the same with any book you read. Take what you want from it and leave the rest. Don't get mad at it. Don't argue with it. Just leave it alone.
Just move on. If you resonate for the majority of what's in the book, and there's just a tiny bit that's not sitting well with you, just move past it and ignore that tiny bit, because there's still some stuff that could help you or teach you some things.
And then, of course, she already said The Crooked Path. Yes. This book, I love this book. This is a book on more traditional witchcraft, which is highly talked about around the Appalachians. It's very, very beginner basic. Talks about tools, talks about energy, how to cleanse certain things, how to create your circle of power for when you're doing your workings. And it talks about everything, including history. The whole first chapter is nothing but important dates and names that you should know if you're on this path. Keldon did fantastic on this book. Highly recommend for anyone.
3 or 4 traditional books or the traditional witchcraft books that I mentioned while she was getting her books, I would say that's probably the best one.
This one. Keldon is great. And the way that he writes is just, it hits you.
Yeah.
It's very easy to follow. Yep. If you're looking more towards the lunar side, the more moon magic, working with the cycles, stuff like that.
Which I do have a book on moon magic and crystal magic up there.
I do have her journal, but I didn't grab it. This is Diane Alquist.
That's the one I have.
I love her.
I didn't grab
it. So she has moon spells, she has moon magic, and she also has a moon journal that you can help track your cycles that you work within. Fantastic. Very easy to read. I tend to grab things that are really easy to read because I don't have a lot of time being a stay-at-home mom. So I got to read fast. Fantastic books. Fantastic author if you're looking into lunar magic.
I agree.
I got these at Five Below. I got them at Five Below.
I ordered
Like,
mine off
you
Amazon.
can find them. Yeah.
Yeah.
$5. You check stores like Five Below, Target, even Walmart. They're starting to get more things in. So just keep your eyes out. You never know what you're going to find.
Yep. Even the Dollar Tree, $1.25 tree.
Yes. Yeah.
I've
Dollar
gotten
Tree
some witchy stuff off there.
plus $3 and $5 plus. Yeah. Dollar Tree is an irk for me right now. Scott Cunningham.
Yes.
This man. This is the
He was a
Encyclopedia of
solitaire
Magic
too.
Herbs. Yes, he was. He was solitary for a very long time. If you're going to get started into any kind of herbal work, whether you're burning incense for your rituals or you want to start creating medicines or, need herbs for your spells, this is my number one go-to. If I am creating a spell for protection, I can go in the back of this book and look up protection, and it will show me an entire list of herbs that I can use for protection. He is a fantastic, and he's getting old. I mean, these books are getting kind of old, but they are so helpful.
So that one right now is only $16.99 on Amazon. These books are not that expensive, just so y'all know. He also has one called The Complete Book of Incense Oils and Brews, which
I have that one too.
I figured you were going to bring that one up.
I have that
both
one too.
of these in my Amazon cart waiting to be purchased. I do have a couple other herbal books up there, but yeah.
Yes, Five Below has tons of stuff now. I love going to Five Below, but it's 2 hours away. But yeah, he does have the Encyclopedia of Incense Oils and Brews. I bought that book for myself, ended up giving it to a friend, and then buying it again. I love that book. It will show you, and it gives you the warnings, is what I love. It gives you the warning on specific herbs. Do not burn this inside. Do not ingest this. It gives you the list of the ingredients, especially for things that are in that book, like flying oil. Flying ointment is in that book, and it specifically tells you do not apply this to your skin. Do not inhale this. Just, this is what the recipe is, but I'm warning you. Like, this here's your sign. Don't do it. But anything by Scott Cunningham. Yeah, anything by Scott Cunningham is great. And because he's solitary, he never took it to that male-female role that Buckland did. He kept it very fluid, very neutral.
That's the best part of being solitary too, is you can keep it completely neutral and balanced between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Mm-hmm. Just throwing that out there.
Very much so. You can easily, and just because you're a female does not mean you can't tap into the divine masculine.
We all have masculine and feminine energies within us, just so y'all know.
Yeah. But if you're looking to enhance your feminine energy, I have one author for you. And I already have Kels reading one of her books, and that is Danielle Dulski. This woman.
I don't know that author.
She has 3 books right now and an oracle deck. The one that I brought out is the second book that she's written. I am currently rereading the first one, which is Woman Most Wild. It's 3 keys to liberating the witch within.
Oh, wow.
Fantastic book. Absolutely love the way that she writes, because she goes in almost archaically. She goes into the archaeology of things and talks about the different stories and the way that they've been twisted for femininity over the eons. She uses archetypes like Lilith in some of her explanations of like, this is what's been thrown upon her and what she's been shown as. But in reality, if you look at the history behind this archetype, this is what she actually is.
Very strong, powerful female.
And that happens in this one. So this is The Holy Wild. This is her second book.
I'm going to have to get you to send me images of those 2 books so I can get them.
It's on Pop's library.
Oh, good.
I had them at the library.
I'm very glad that she brought Pop's library up. If you're on Discord, please find Pops the Druid here on TikTok and join the library, because he has a lot of the books that we are mentioning, plus thousands more. And I'm not joking when I say thousands more.
Thousands.
On the library, that in PDF form, that you can download for free. You don't have to spend money. And he did
it for this specific reason, because a lot of companies, yes, are jacking their prices up, especially for things like books.
And we pagans and witches, we broke folk.
We're broke.
We broke.
But this one is A Heathen Bible for the Untamed Woman.
Ooh,
so it's definitely one of those, you want to read them. If you are struggling with claiming your femininity, these.
Well, the majority of pagans and witches are broke.
Yeah, not broke, humble. You can be polite about it all you want. Still the same thing.
I'm broke. It is what it is. I'm broke. Trying to change that by going to school, but I'm broke.
And then she has a third book, which is Seasons of Love and Flame. And that is one I haven't read yet. But she is amazing. She teaches classes. She does retreats.
Oh, wow.
So if you want to see her name again, I know it's backwards on here, but...
That's okay. I have an iPhone. I can swap it.
You can find her. She's got Instagram. I don't think she has a TikTok, but I know she has an Instagram. And she has a website where you can buy her books. You can take her classes. You can find out when her retreats are. She is an amazing, amazing woman. I do have one more, and this is for my Norse pagans. So my Norse pagans, if you're looking into furthering your Norseness into the magic side, or, you're looking at doing more than just working with the gods, you're looking on adding magic into it. This book, The Saxon Sorcery and Magic. Alaric Albertson. So this book, yes, it says Saxon. What you got to remember is with the Norse, that whole region was very much tied in together. So you had the Norse, you had the Sami, you had the Saxons. They all worshipped very similarly. Their names were just changed a little bit. Yeah, see? Very good book. I was gifted this, actually, for my birthday last year.
Very
and
cool.
I am so glad that I had this on my wish list. So this one specifically, it teaches you everything from sorcery, runic charms, potions, effective spell casting, magical techniques, exploring practices and customs of Anglo-Saxons hidden in English folk traditions. So this takes a lot of what's been hidden and Christianized and brings it back into what it actually is. So if you're pagan, Norse pagan, and want to go further down this is a good one for you.
Another one along the Norse lines, and since I mentioned Seder, however you want to say it, Valerie Wright, Wright, has a book called Seder Sprehan, Sprehhan, and she has several other books. Voluspa Seder as Word Consciousness, Heathen Anthology 1 and 2, and Forn Thrafa, Ancient Healing Touch. But the Voluspa Seder is the only one that is not in her true name of Valerie Wright. It's a pseudonym. Don't ask me to pronounce it. I'm not good at pronouncing Norse words or names. Sorry.
We can't speak Norwegian. That's just no.
No.
I've heard about those books. I have not read them yet.
I do recommend them because after Freya really kind of pounced on me at the beginning of this year, I kind of went on a binge. That's what I do. if a god or goddess is like, hey, I'm here, I will go crazy buying books and learning as much as I can about them. Which I do recommend because you want to know who you're working with. You want to know their aspects and if they are going to be a good fit for you to work with. If you do deity work. In witchcraft, deity work is not required at all. It is your choice. So, as I said earlier, it took me a long time, the better part of 6-7 years before I even thought about working with any deity. I knew Frey and Odin were calling me, but I was not ready. I was still decompressing and deconstructing Christianity and what it meant for me to be leaving it after 30 some odd years. And it took me a while to be open to work with them. I will say Freya is my main deity out of the two of them. I do work with her more than I do Odin. I do incorporate Odin in my education, like my Muggle education. And that's how I kind of honor him. But Freya is more encompassing in my practices and in my life. So if you want to be an atheist and practice witchcraft, that's perfectly fine. You can.
You
so
can be a
not
Christian
every pagan is a witch.
and practice witchcraft.
Not every pagan is a Wiccan, but every Wiccan is a witch.
Yep.
But yeah.
It's one of those, I hate seeing, oh, well, you're this, so you can't do that. Tell me I can't. One more
watch
time.
me do it. Because I'm the same way.
I've known so many Hindu witches, Egyptian witches, Christian witches. Being a witch has nothing to do with the religion that you work with.
Exactly.
So I have someone I've been helping. You know Hale, he's probably still in here. And there's one question that I ask him every time he starts asking me a whole bunch of questions and looking for a whole bunch of knowledge and trying to do a whole bunch of stuff. I ask him one thing, and that is, what is the definition of magic? The definition of magic is the transmutation of energy towards a desired goal that has nothing to do with who you believe in or what you believe in. Magic is magic and religion is religion, and they are two completely separate things. Do they blend well together? Yes. Yeah. They blend beautifully together, but they are not necessary for the other.
Exactly.
Just remember that.
Exactly. Witchcraft is not dogmatic. Wicca is a religion and is very dogmatic. Christianity is a religion and is extremely dogmatic. Witchcraft is not. The key components within witchcraft are intent and desire.
Yep.
Intent. Nothing's going to happen.
Because you don't have to do, like, I know people have seen my altar before I took it down because I'm in the middle of literally moving everything. And I've had people, oh, your altar's so big and it's so beautiful. That huge altar has moved down to 3 shelves. All of my tools and all of my things have been put away in boxes for now because all I need is this and this.
That's your wand. That's your athame. Right there.
Your
just little finger right here. You do not have to spend money on tools in order to practice witchcraft. No. Tools are a visual representation, like athames and wands, of what you are trying to do. They help you direct energy visually so you can focus on the item visually. They are not required.
Nope.
Unless you're in a closed practice and they have requirements. In witchcraft, especially eclectic witchcraft, they are not required.
No.
Right there. There's your tools. There's your tools.
Exactly. If you feel that you really, really need them, and you really need them, make them.
Yeah.
Bones is completely right. He said, just make them from the land.
Make sure you thank the land. And if you make a
Yeah.
wand, make sure you thank the tree.
Thank it.
Whether it,
Leave something in return.
yes.
It's
And
it's so crazy to think about, how advanced we are. Humanity is, as a race, is extremely advanced. And all these things are trying to trying to catch up. You need all this stuff. You need stuff. You need stuff. You need stuff. But you don't need stuff.
no,
Think about the ones who started all of this, the OG witches that were, helping people have their babies and making medicines and taking care of people. What did they have? Anything
stuff
they could
from the
find.
land,
They had to find it, they had to
trees.
figure out what it did, and they had to make it. They didn't get to go to Walmart or Amazon,
Or your local metaphysical shop.
Nope. Your local herb store to go and, buy your quarter cup of rosemary that you need for a spell. No. If
Yep,
they needed it, they found it. If they couldn't find it,
exactly.
they found something else.
Exactly.
Excess box? Yes. That's all the way down to the bottom.
So, for those of you who are just starting out on your journey, go read these beginner books. Take what resonates with you. Don't take the rest that does not resonate with you. Leave it behind. Okay. And just know that you have a say in your path. Your path, I will say this and I will fight this on every hill. Your
Shout
path
it.
is a spiral. It changes. Where you are at right this second is not where you will be a month, a year, 10, 20, 50 years from now. Okay. And I think we have said that in a roundabout way. She started out as Wiccan. Now she's an eclectic Norse witch. I started out dabbling and trying to learn about Wicca and quickly found out it's not for me. Didn't work with deities for a long time. And now I honor Freya and Odin.
And one other thing that a lot of people don't talk about, especially those that have been on your practice for a minute and you kind of feel like you've plateaued. You're not really going anywhere. You're not doing that magical plateau. It happens.
Rest. Yes.
Every single one of us hits it, and it is exhausting.
Multiple times. You will hit it multiple times.
Yep.
I take
And
those
that's how you know
opportunities
you're
to
learning.
rest. Yes.
Yeah.
Take those opportunities, those times where you're not receiving messages all the time, where you're not being intuitively directed in things. Take it as a time to rest. Take it as a time to read, grow your knowledge. And then when your path is reopened to you, start again. Start with the
Yep.
knowledge that you've gained from that rest,
Yep.
that plateau.
That's why we say we've been doing this on and off, for this many years on and off, because you do have your off points where you don't want to read anything. You don't want to light your candles. You don't want to do anything. You don't even want to think about it. You don't, you want to act like it's not there because you're not feeling it in that moment anymore. And that's okay. Everything in life is a cycle. It will come back. Just like the sun comes back in the spring, it will come back.
And the other thing about plateaus, usually a lot of people will use those as times to work on their mundane or muggle life because that's what needs the attention in that moment. And that's okay too. I very heavily was reading tarot for years, very heavily. I was practicing, I was learning, I was growing with tarot. It came to a point where I didn't pick it up for a year, 2 years.
Yeah.
And then I picked it up again, and it happens. So just be aware of that. Don't get upset. Just grow with it. Go with it. And know that just because right now is not the time to be doing things, your focus is elsewhere. It's always there for you, and you can always go back to it.
Yep.
It will open back up to you.
It really will.
Are there any other tidbits of advice that you would like to share?
Take everything with a grain of salt. everything, every book you read, every lecture you hear, every person that gives you an answer to a question that you've asked, solicited or not, take it with a grain of salt, because remember, everyone's path is different. So what works for them might not work for you, and that's okay. And you might not, think that you're an eclectic, and, you might be wholeheartedly in this one spot and you're comfortable there. If something from the outside reaches out to you, don't be afraid of it.
That's great
There
advice.
is a massive shift happening right now, and a lot of people are seeing a lot of things they've never seen before, hearing a lot of things they've never heard before.
Yes.
Don't be afraid of it.
Yep.
You can approach it with caution, but don't run from it.
Which is definitely advised.
Yeah.
Approach
Don't
everything
run.
with caution. But I do want to make a comment on taking everything with a grain of salt, especially authors and books. Okay. Books, for the most part, not all books. Okay. I'm going to preface this by saying not all books, but for the most part, books, especially in paganism and witchcraft, and paganism is an umbrella term. Hermetics, Norse, Celtic, it encompasses all, just like Christianity is an umbrella term.
Pagan is anything that's
Non-Abrahamic.
Abrahamic.
Yeah, exactly.
So if it is Christian, Catholic, what have you, it is Abrahamic. It follows Abraham or Jesus or God or Christ. Anything like that, anything other than that is considered pagan.
Pagan. Mm-hmm.
Everything other than
Hinduism,
that,
Buddhism, it's considered paganism. But the
pagan.
point I wanted to bring up was a lot of these authors are writing things from their perspective. Sometimes they don't always state that this is their experience, this is their perspective. They try to pass it off as this is the way. Okay, this is not the case. They generally are writing from their perspective. And if you come across a book where one says this thing and another says this thing, they are probably giving things from their perspective. So definitely take books with a grain of salt.
Yes.
The only exception to those books, I would say, are historical books that have different references that will provide said references.
Yes.
Those are coming from a historical aspect, like Jackson Crawford. He
Yes.
is a Norse professor. Okay, professor. He's not a Norse pagan, but he is a linguist of the ancient Norse languages. He has translated the Havamal and a few other Norse books, the Poetic Eddas. But he is not a Norse pagan. But I still think his books have value, and I do choose to use his books in my Norse practice because he's not a Norse pagan, because he is he's not invested in the spiritual belief, the religion, the spiritual aspect of Norse paganism. He is providing you the translations of these ancient texts.
That's why, like, people like him and Crawford. Crawford is the author of The Wanderer's Havamal.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
He is not pagan. Yeah, he is a great person, and I'm so glad you brought him up, because that's the other thing about authors. Don't write an author off just because you know that they don't actually practice what they're writing about, because they're giving you an unbiased opinion of what they see.
Yep,
and it's great.
Exactly
I have The Wanderers Have Them All in paperback because I carry it with me.
Yeah.
And I brought his because he's not Norse pagan. Because a lot of the Norse pagan books that I've bought written by Norse pagans, there's some inconsistencies.
You also have to be careful with which authors you choose, especially in Norse paganism, because of
and in Wicca. I'm not going to say the name, but you know who I'm thinking of.
But specifically, well, the Alexanders and the Ferrars you want to stay away from in Wicca, but
and the Silver Raven Wolves.
Yes, them too. Or her too, I should say. Um, because of extremists to be TikTok friendly, that
Yes.
most of us do not and will not associate with or believe. We too tend to have to be careful because I personally, and I know a lot of my Norse pagan friends, refuse to buy books by these people because they fund an organization that is horrible. And it has the letters Apple, Frank, Apple.
Yep.
So take that for what it's worth. Read between the lines.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not options like that.
No.
Just
So do be careful. If you have a trusted friend who's been reading a book or can give you some advice on books, reach out to them. Reach out to Ruth. Reach out to myself, Witches Brew, Morgana Birdie, Pops the Druid, Seawolf, definitely Seawolf.
Yep.
Reach out to us. We can help you with some books. We can help you and point you in directions. But Pops the Druid, his library, I have it linked in my Discord for the Witches Cauldron Live podcast. A direct link to his Discord server for the library. Again, I highly recommend it because you can save yourself some coins in today's society. Who doesn't need their coins in their own pockets?
And when it comes to the library, if there's a specific book,
Yeah.
which I don't know if you found out, I had him add another book to the library. There is now a copy of Beneficium in the library.
I don't know that book.
Beneficium is a book. It's an advanced book.
Oh,
it
good.
works with the poison path.
Ah.
I had him add that because while I was on a vacation trip and I found a first edition and I couldn't afford it because it was a $300 book.
Yeah.
So I kindly asked Pops, hey, is there any way we can attempt to find this? Within an hour, they had it uploaded to the library. So if there is a book that you're looking for and you can't find it,
request it.
Between Pops and Silver, they'll find it. All you have to do is ask.
I requested a book that I have a physical copy of right up there because I had a friend ask me about protection, and I was talking about crystal grids, and I went looking in Pop's library because this individual is in Pop's library, and they brought it up, and I keep forgetting about Pop's library, to be honest with you, but it's a great resource. So I'm glad thank you for bringing it up, Roots. But
Very welcome.
I requested it be put into the library, and guess what? This was over this week. It's in there now.
It's there.
My friend can read it now, and they didn't have to spend money on the book, which, I mean, personally, I'm kind of iffy about that because I do think that you're very welcome, that we should get paid for any effort and work that we do. But I do also understand a lot of us are humble, as Spiritual Country says, when it comes to our finances. So I get it. And I don't think that information should be withheld just because someone is unable to purchase it. So definitely support Pops and his library. Request the books. There's so many in there that they've just been adding recently. What's being requested just because there's if you don't find it,